education found me because I worked in this little town. I worked at Child Protective Services, which was a very stressful job. And the school district came to me and said, hey, we need a social worker, a behavior type person to work with our kids, and we don't want a teacher. We have teachers that could do it, but our kids have enough teachers. We need someone who understands kids from a different point of view. So I said, yes. And so I did, and then, I mean, it was the perfect fit for me. Dillan really and truly is one of my best memories. When I first met Dillan, the first day I met him, he was in 5th grade at Cambridge, and they said, you need to come over, this kid needs to get used to you before he goes over there, because new things are hard for him. And I said, okay. So I go over there, and he was at recess. So I walked out there with his teacher, and he had just gotten in trouble in recess for, I don't know if he scratched a kid or spit on a kid, but something. And she said, he can't do recess. The kids, she said, I'll be honest with you, they kind of pick on him. So he was, of course, he was Dillan. When we came back in the building, he didn't have much to say. But then when he got here, he was in resource classes. And I want to mention Brittany Stribling because she's probably the first one to recognize his intelligence. You know, I recognized his spirit, his gentle spirit and all that. She had him in math class, and she's like, this kid doesn't belong in here. We've got to get him out. And I said, okay, so what's the plan? So she started getting math work from the regular education teachers and giving it to him, so that when we transitioned him out, he was just a little bit ahead of everyone else, so that when he went in, he was very confident. We ended up getting out of resource into regular education classes, and that's what I was telling Miss Boutique yesterday. I said, you don't understand how important it is to this family and the journey they've been on with him. He's in advanced classes. He got commended on the STAR history test, and he was a few points away from having commended on the science test. You know, I remember that little boy. He wouldn't look at anyone, wouldn't talk to anyone, didn't have any friends, in special education classes. And now we have this young man who is in advanced classes, scores commended on the state test, has been in the school play with a lead role. He's overcome more barriers in 3 years than I have ever seen in my 23 years, ever. We have tough conversations, which aren't easy for him. And I hope when he watches this, when he's 30, he understands that when I was hard on him, it's because he needed the information and he needed to understand. But I'm able to talk to him in a way that I've never been able to talk to someone who has autism. He had a peer tutor when he was in 6th grade. So when he went to these classes, he had an 8th grade student go with him because we were kind of unsure from the information we had whether or not he'd be able to be in classes unassisted and all. So he had a peer tutor in science, and she was this 8th grade girl, and she talked to Dillan, and she totally understood him, and she would tell him, you have, and her term was a fierce mind. You don't understand. You have a fierce mind. And they became friends. And that's when he started talking to people. And I think that's when she accepted him, it's like he could accept himself and see himself as someone who kids were going to like. And that's when he started like talking to other kids. But she was very instrumental in him developing peer relationships. But him being able to listen to those things and understand has to do with his unbelievable intelligence. I don't even think, I know we can't measure it accurately. I think he's quite brilliant, and I don't mean that lightly. I think he's a brilliant young man. He's got a creative mind. He can't express himself, and maybe that's the barrier, is he doesn't know how to express it to people. he used to take a long time to get started on a writing project, and so I would try to help him come up with ideas and he'd just be kind of like, and so now he'll do this. It's like, so he told me one time, I said, can you not come up with an idea? Because that's typically with a student with autism is that creative piece. It's just so difficult, that abstract. They can't come up with an idea. And he looked at me and he said, no, I have too many. One thing about Dillan too that's important to know, it took me a long time to figure out, especially with his writing. He can't write it if it's not true to him. If you want to be a writer, sometimes you're going to have to write. And I think he could be a writer. I mean, he truly is gifted. We were talking about Dillan yesterday, and she said, I can totally see him in the movie industry writing, because he's clever. He's really, really clever. Never have I seen a student go from resource to advanced classes to commended on extremely rigorous state exams in 3 years. No, I have not seen that. He doesn't have a mean or hurtful bone in his body. So I think there is some overdiagnosis. But I think what the government can do for these people who really do have autism is to increase access to really higher education, because in public schools I think we're doing a good job providing the services. But what concerns me the most about where we're at is when they leave high school and the public education setting, then the autism doesn't stop, and they still need, while they make a huge growth and stuff like that, well, they still have autism. Colleges are now providing more supports, but just in the work field and all kinds of places, just to get more awareness out there that just with a few supports and accommodations, they can be your most productive and creative and loyal employees. So I think that's what we can do now, is to look beyond. School's got it down, now we need to look to the rest of society about how we can integrate and keep supporting them. Well, I need to know that a lot of who I am is because of Dillan.
Oh, that's awesome.
I could retire, but watching Dillan grow and those kind of things are wild. It's like, are you kidding me? I know, I wouldn't give that up.